Suddenly, 2 small mangoes dropped into her lap. She looked up and saw Sanjay grin down at her from a big branch in the tree. The day before she left the village, Manjula, a woman who worked with an organization promoting literacy in the region, had taken her aside. "I have a proposal," she said. "We're starting a night school with English language courses so girls with high school can go to university. We'd love you to teach there. You could make a difference." And she gave Lauren her cell phone number. She would go back to India.
Maybe I'll just quickly ask, it's Out of Bounds, and how much are you asking for the... $10 for Out of Bounds. You heard it, it's well worth the $10 in today's economy.
Oh, well,
wow, great price.
I was thinking that it's a little bit of a tribute to Blossom Tom, who died as well, and I'd like to honor her. And so I'm just reducing the book, thinking of Tom.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for reading. Have yourself a seat. Wonderful. Wonderfully done, Sheilan. Thank you so much for reading that. Obviously very well read. A very fun writing, and wonderful proof that every moment in life, regardless of its seriousness or geographical location, has wonderful potential for humor and playfulness. So I really appreciate it. And it's Out of Bounds, which is a very aptly titled book, of course. So thank you so much. Thank you for reading. Next up, I'm going to be introducing Frances Boyle. Frances Boyle, her most recent book is Open Work in Limestone from Frontenac House from 2022. She's also the author of Tower, a novella, Seeking Shade, a short story collection that was a finalist for the Dunera Glede Awards and the Relit Award, and 2 earlier poetry collections, one of which was republished in 2024 by Doubleback Press. She is a past board member and president of Arc Poetry magazine and serves on the board of the League of Canadian Poets and of VerseFest, Ottawa's International Poetry Festival. Raised on the prairies, Frances has long made her home in Ottawa after time spent studying in Montreal and living in Vancouver. So Frances, come on up, we're ready to hear you.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Thank you, Jan and Brian and everybody involved in the wonderful series, and everybody for being here. I'm going to be reading from Open Work in Limestone, and just a word about the title. Open Work is lace and filigree. It's the work of women's hands. So there's a lot of mother and daughter story poems in here. Limestone is rock, of course, but it's also deep time, ancient time. There's some myths threaded through the book. So I'll just kind of jump in first with one that one of 2 poems in the book that's based on Robert Macfarlane's wonderful book about deep time and the space under the earth called Underlands, and my poem is called Tide of Limestone. Flow of glaciers, shifting salt in the deep. We belly crawl, gaps between rocks, tunnels, caves to caverns. Passing through walls, we face the stasis, the stuck place. Dark matter filters us, flows through our invisible nets. We leave handprints, scratches, scant record. So the next poem is very much about mothers and daughters. It's called Camel Hair Coat. I don't want always to write about the cleft in my heart, the blade turning, my child who for so long resented me. I believe my mother caused me damage, turned away from my need, restrained my flourishing as if she tight bound me, wrists and ankles. But so little of what I remember is solid. Her camel hair coat, fluid when she walked, it smelled of Chanel and was slippery smooth inside. She'd drape herself with the coat for her afternoons resting on the Chesterfield. It was her woven shield, a golden soft refuge against us, her clamoring children. Beneath it, for 20 minutes, she could simply shut her eyes. If mothering is the thing in my life that's pained me most, how can it also have given immeasurable lightness, tripwire delight, flying in freeze frame, the cool trickle that slakes a parched throat? What insight might I have about being a mother, about having a mother? I've written of her, raw-boned and angular when I was small, her hugs all hip bone and rib, how she shrank, a softer body as she aged, the feel of her yield in my arms, the finely creased fabric of her cheeks. Returning home from the chaos after she died, a din of arrangements half a country away, I settled myself to write on a wooden patio chair in the sun. My girl was 7, wanted to climb me, sit in my lap, but I couldn't hold her as I wrote, and I wanted to write, needed to sink into myself. So I pushed her away, let her father lead her into other games. Leave your mother be. The chasm opened. My child, unmothered, just as I'd been dismantled, unpieced, only a week before. So in addition to fabric work, open work can also be metal, and this is a prose poem called Wrought Iron Willow. The sculptor wonders where her youthful hands have gone, the delicate hands of her first sketchbook, the light touch, the fine bones and long fingers. That touch, generative of shivers. She's moved beyond that touch, but delicacy remains in the work. Strong hands now ply iron. Work the iron into shapes, gargoyles and flowers. Hammered or bent, strong hands, wielding, welding. The iron worked, wrought to form willow branches. She is weeping. The branches are thick, sturdy, devoid of leaves. Where's the delicacy of filigree droop, the graceful sweep over water? She never thought of her hands as coarse, but so it seems they've become. Her gloved wrist pushes at the bandana edge on her forehead, tamps the sweat. Tears dry on her face. And one of the things I have a bit of an obsession with, and there's a couple of poems in here, is dry stone walls. This one is called Hearting. White cairns mark each seaside turn on these well-raised walls. I'm halted by washes of wind, by tumble fears, so I hesitate to clamber over. A compass rose blooms. Fatigue blows through me, old petals, musty rose forgetful. I fumble among the pebbles for soft, fragrant scraps. Stones still hold day's heat as evening cools the sandy soil. It runs through the funnel of my palms. Stasis. I'm unable to stay, reluctant to move, fearful of both the settling and the speed. Vacillation yields in time, but wind never hesitates. White-hearted and reverent, it pelts me with spray, praises the day. And this is one of an acrostic poem based on artwork, as I have a couple in the collection. This one is based on a watercolor by a BC artist called Alana Hansen, and my poem is called Return of the Bones to the Sea. Stones and fish bones, what our island is made of, a rising up, a running against the current, a thrashing over gravel, up rapids through rills that detour around the pounding flow. That ridge, a backbone, spiny retelling of what accretes. Grief stoic, love in layers of the everyday. We don't thrive when breath is labored, gasping flare of red-rimmed gills in and out, a heartbreak, an outpouring, a tail fin, a jack pine, wind-sculpted or water-battered, that faint, waving flag. And clouds are smoke, and smoke is cloudy, and the full moon hunkers shy over the mountains, palest shadow in bay water. And this poem is set in Newgrange in Ireland. Newgrange, I was telling Seamus before, is a Neolithic passage tomb. And like other structures built by the ancients before slide rules, let alone calculators, it has a solstice phenomenon. So there's a lintel over the doorway where light penetrates the depth of the chamber, just 17 minutes on either side of the winter solstice. So I loved being there. It was a family trip we took. I actually used an image from Newgrange as the cover of my first poetry collection, which is over there. And this poem is called Passage. Our knot of tourists untangles in the low-lit passage, tracing the route the sun takes each solstice dawn. We squeeze along its length, shoulders brushing stone. Reaching the chambers, see chevrons, sheaves, triple spirals faint carved on rock. Charred bone bits, soot shadows, a tomb. Grave goods strewn on passage floor. Ornaments and tools, beads, potsherds, flakes of flint. My family's dead are ash, scattered, no care in her tomb. Our daughter waits for us outside. Sudden claustrophobe, she couldn't carry on, fumbled out, the slabs of grey-whack pressing in on her. I wish I'd had a lifeline to throw, a silken cord for her safe passage back through time. And thank you again, everybody, so much. I'll close with what's the final poem in the book, which is called The Whole Tall World. A column of light, not steady but scintillating. I listen for its faint scratchiness, its syncopated silence, its airy breathing. Exhalation of pores, the inhalation of mountains and the sea's unceasing bellow lungs. Surf, like horses that rear and mane shake, rushes in, retreats. And spume, a spiraling cylinder, a rising, a lifting, finest droplets hovering on the air. What tuning will bring me past static to clarity, to that thrum of silence, voices chiming, twining, a braid of sound within that space between breathing, behind the exhale, pulling the inhale into animate energy, that silent moment that might be death, but for the animal compulsion, willing our squeeze box lungs to echo ocean and breathe. Thank you.
Thank you, Frances. So Open Work and Limestone is on sale over there, along with a number of your books, actually.
Yeah.
How much, what's the price range for your work?
The Open Work and Limestone is $20, and the older ones are $10 each for the poetry books, and the novella, and $15 for the short story collection. And
You got a whole catalog.
There's sorry.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. No, it's wonderful. Absolutely.
So there's stickers on there with the
Great.
prices.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerome.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I have to say, Frances, I really appreciate what you read, and I just want to say as well that there are two things that are really provocative about the poems you chose to read. The first is that a really clever parallel you make between the kind of mundane materials we find and derive from the natural world and their cosmic significance. It's really, really neatly done in the way you wrote those poems. And the second thing is a great paradox of the human being in that we often become or take on the roles of those things we tend to criticize most, so mother to daughter and father to son. Really, really beautifully done. Thank you so much for gracing us with those poems. Wonderful. Yeah, do you have something to add? You want to
I
add?
have something to do.
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt right here. I live with concussion syndrome, and I don't want to miss words, so I think we'll interrupt so that we can be really attentive to the next readers. This is your little, think of it as your champagne sorbet to clear your palate for a moment. I know. So you get to hold that up above my head. And this book goes to Frances.
Wow. Woo. Oh, yeah.
It's going to go to Ottawa now. Okay. Thank you so much, Emma. You're in paper, Durant.
Wonderful. Next, we have the honor and pleasure of having Louise Dupré read for us from Up Close. Louise Dupré, born in Quebec, has published more than 20 books which have received many awards. Plus haut que les flammes, Beyond the Flames, and La main hantée, The Haunted Hand, published at Le Noirot in Montreal and at l'Édition Bruno Ducy in Paris. Both won the Governor General's Award for Poetry. Louise Dupré's poetry and several of her novels have been translated into English and other languages. In 2023, her collection of poems, Close Up, or Dupré, translated by Karen McPherson, was published by Ecstasis Editions. Louise Dupré is a member of the Academy of Letters of Quebec and of the Royal Society of Canada. In December 2014, she was appointed to the Order of Canada for her contributions to Quebec literature as a poet, novelist, playwright, essayist, and professor, and we're very lucky to have her here tonight. Everyone give her a hand. Est-ce que c'est up close or close up?
Up close.
Up close.
Up close. Yes. Thank you very much, Jerome. Thank you, Jan and Brian, for inviting me. And I want to thank very much Karen McPherson, the poet Karen McPherson, who lives in Oregon. So she's not here tonight, but she would have loved to be here. So I will read 5 poems of the book in English and 5 poems, the translations in French. My accent is strong, but I think you will understand me, I'm sure. I am from nowhere when the sky pulls back, from no forest, no city, like a woman settled into the smallness of her womanhood, seeking her face through a shrouded window. There, in the memory of my death, the exact instant when breathing left me, I rocked soundlessly back and forth, surprised to find myself again intact in the willingness of the world to be offering my name to the biting sun. For it is still light out, even though the day has ended, and I'm keeping watch by the flowers on the graves. I'm keeping watch over myself, serene among so many souls who could not endure. Je ne suis de nulle part quand le ciel rétrécit, d'aucune forêt, d'aucune ville, comme une femme assise dans sa petitesse de femme et qui cherche son visage à travers une fenêtre camouflée. Là, dans le souvenir de ma mort, de l'instant exact où la respiration m'a quitté, je me berce sans faire de bruit, surprise de me retrouver intacte dans la volonté du monde, d'offrir mon nom à la morsure du soleil. Car il fait jour encore, même si le jour a cessé, et je veille devant les bouquets des cimetières. Je me veille, tranquille, parmi tant d'autres âmes qui n'ont pas su résister. All around, too much drama. I've died to keep to myself far, far too much silence. As if by revealing human misery, I would risk being devoured, ripped wide open in the public square, voracious beasts snuffling through my entrails. And yet, writing begins with the shame of a sordid death, always one's own, as the left hand, at first hesitant, clutched at the throat, breaking away from its childhood body, from that opaque blankness that envelops memory. Writing begins with a betrayal. Autour, trop de drames qu'il a fallu dérober, trop, tellement trop de silence. Comme si, à révéler la misère des humains, je risquais d'être abandonnée à la dévoration. Ventre ouvert sur la place publique, viscères que fouillent des bêtes voraces. Et pourtant, écrire commence par la honte d'une mort sordide, la mienne toujours, quand la main gauche, hésitante d'abord, se cramponne à une vérité, quand elle se coupe de son corps d'enfance, du blanc opaque qui enveloppe la mémoire. Écrire commence par une trahison. And I become the child I never knew how to be, brazen, while insects keep buzzing in the cavern of my ear. Something of the world is entering me, and I no longer refuse it, the purity of sorrow. It bursts in, pushes me out of bed, on those darkest nights when I have no idea of beauty, except for the surprise of movement, of feeling my vocal cords swell, of seeing I am a broken voice within the murmuring, but a voice that is striving to give life to the stones where the fossils lie. Et l'on devient l'enfant qu'on n'a jamais su être, insolente devant les insectes qui bourdonnent dans la caverne de l'oreille. Quelque chose du monde entre en soi qu'on ne refuse plus, une pureté de la douleur. Cela envahit, cela nous projette hors du lit les nuits de grand noir où l'on ne suppose rien de la beauté, sinon la surprise de bouger, de sentir gonfler ses cordes vocales, de dire « je suis une voix brisée dans la rumeur », mais une voix qui essaie de donner la vie aux pierres où reposent les fossiles. And in the evening, I enter into the thousand air of the gardens, lamps illuminating the willows and the lazy air setting on the rocks. Everything is sleeping, the children, the fairy tale birds, and their songs vaster than images. And I dream about love, so I can hold onto summer between my legs. I say utopia, thinking liberty, that long French East time luring away the melancholy beneath hopeless word I nevertheless would like to believe in, right up to my eternal dust. Et j'entre dans la chevelure défaite des jardins le soir, avec ses lampes illuminant les saules et la paresse de l'air contre la rocaille, puisque tout dort, les enfants, les oiseaux des contes et leurs chants plus vastes que les images. Et je songe à l'amour pour retenir l'été entre mes jambes. Je dis utopie en pensant liberté, cette longue patience égarant chaque fois la mélancolie sous des mots sans espoir, auquel je voudrais croire pourtant jusque dans ma poussière éternelle. And the last one. No doubt, from earliest childhood, they would have me forget that I am mortal, no doubt. I only need to step back from time for the world to stop. And I settle in, dig down into the thought of books, illuminated with gold and sand, down where one can see behind the eyes, behind fear and age-old failures. And there, I watch the rough words dancing, dancing until they find their poem. Poem, yes. Each time I die, I survive. Sans doute m'a-t-on fait oublier dès l'enfance que je suis mortelle, sans doute. Il me suffit de prendre congé du temps pour que le monde s'arrête. Et je m'enracine dans la pensée des livres, enluminés d'or et de sable, là où l'on voit derrière les yeux, derrière la peur et les vieilles défaites. Et je regarde danser les mots rugueux qui finissent par trouver leur poème. Poème, oui. À chaque fois que je meurs, je survis. Thank you very much.
Wow, she chamboulée. I am absolutely amazed. You can get a copy of Up Close just on the table over there. It's a wonderful translation. Louise, je suis vraiment émerveillée. Je suis pas de parole, mais pour vrai, c'est incroyable comment vos poèmes connectent vraiment le corps au lecteur, comment c'est un symbole, mais aussi ça lie la vie et la mort. Really incredible how her poems do a great job of connecting the human body as a symbol, but also the one thing that connects both life and death. Really incredible. Merci beaucoup. Wow. Ça nous fait plaisir. Et un petit mot de conseil, a little bit of advice. Prochaine fois, il ne faut pas dire « I have a big accent », il faut dire « I have a charming accent ». Personne ne me pose de questions. Okay. Next we have Sam Kugarian. Sam is here. Sam is here? He's here? Okay. Sam is a specialist in Armenian church music history. He was born in Egypt, and as a child, he participated in the Armenian church boys choir and took private piano lessons, theory, and ear training as well. Later, when he emigrated to Quebec, Canada, he continued private lessons until he graduated from secondary education, and he specialized at university in the field of music. As a musician and teacher, he has been to Armenia several times and has long served as an organist in churches, especially in Armenian churches, as well as serving as a cantor. Let's welcome up Sam.
Yeah, that's the first time we met. So, thank you for the invitation. Merci pour l'invitation. Unfortunately, I don't play lute, but I play kanun. All right. Pardon? Yeah, okay, but when I finish.
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah. All right, I'm a researcher. My plan was not to write a book, but an article. As we know, when we start a search, one book leads to another. This is how I ended up writing a book instead of an article. Considering the cultural demands of our lives, I decided to publish in 3 languages, apart my national language, French and English. The aim of my thesis is to prove that Mesrop, Majlos, and Sahak Partev were the first hymnal authors of the Armenian Apostolic Church. For many centuries, even today, I can say that for some, Komitas first, the supreme leader of the Armenian Church of the 7th century, is the first author of the hymn. The reason historian Gazar Papretsy, during the 6th and 10th centuries, our historians did not refer to the musical data of Mesrop and Sahak. Musicologist Grigor Pidegian summarizes these circumstances by saying the second half of the 6th century being politically, religiously, and economically difficult period for the Armenian people. Not a single musician's name or work has reached us from this period. But with my research, I can say that with this study, I achieved my goal. So these two persons were the first musicians of the Armenian Church, the authors of the hymnals. So this is it about. I was organist. I've been organist for 27 years, but unfortunately, I can't continue anymore because of my severe arthritis. But I still organize concerts. Thank you. Short and sweet. Yes.
Which one should I play first? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
By the way, my book is there. There are some copies and no charge for it. And if you like more, you can ask Jan. So you can get it.
Hornes fugaster, si paroche paravolial, ai sorgolo Betania, come nazoramana vatainetzer chazaru yevdoratavma dejor partetav apakanut yolotav kentanar Christos getos mes. Ai sorgolovi Betania, scosa sharha getzui sul tarut juntara chagun tanutzer anabakana barkochmam chore koryaini tagmane gentanar Christos yetzos mes. Ai sorgolovi Betania, Jebrajec vocman kunkas kanchatiala sein, Maria musechpain, itagmane harotial vort voi Mariamu, kentanar Christos getos mes. Kentanutians vascho Christos i Betania, Jekavoria laisor, barekami gazalu, parkeves kentanutium. Tenolina balartas velovend Martai, jevend Mariamu vochpakcer, jevorbes martarcanerur jedicas chazaros, jevorbes astras barbaro farusane imerelotes shore korjain, Jezugen tatzain in Merian, jeknar taksana pakan. Astvazain deine Gotchmanen sarsetzin dagalov, karapedek de jochos, jev Merian, jeknar taksana pakan. Ierizapin patano câmerian, Ramayat luțanelitiasem, haviteni.
Next up, we have Chad Norman. So Chad's poems have appeared for nearly 40 years in literary publications across Canada, as well as a number of other countries around the world, translated into Albanian, Spanish, Polish, Chinese, Turkish, Italian, Czech, Vietnamese, and Hungarian. In October 2016, he was invited by the Nordic Association for Canadian Studies to give talks on Canadian poetry and read from his books at the Grotgard Gym in Copenhagen and Riskov Gym in Aarhus, as well as other readings in both cities and Malmö, Sweden. Because of that tour, Norman has started the manuscript Counting Points in Denmark and Sweden. In October 2017, he read at various Eastern Canada venues in Kingston, Ottawa, Montreal, reading poems from a selected and new collection published by Mosaic Press. In October 2018, he read at various types of venues, from universities to cafes to pubs, throughout Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and while he visited Swansea and slept 3 nights in the room where Dylan Thomas was born. A celebration of Canadian poetry took place during his tour as well. His most recent books are Simona, a celebration of the SPCA, out 2021, Squall, Poems in the Voice of Mary Shelley, A Matter of Inclusion, in 2022, and a children's picture book, Bee and Boy. Parental Forest is the one I believe will be presenting on Parental Forest, and he's currently a member of the League of Canadian Poets. Let's give a round of applause for Chad.
Would you mind if I avoided the microphone?
Yes.
You're not a fan.
It's, I'm so sorry, but it's being live streamed and we
Oh.
hear you.
Oh,
But
okay.
you could stand further back if you wish. I'm sure you can project.
I'm not worried about that. I like to have things that I put on little tables and things.
Could that just be your van of light?
No, that's okay, I'm good. next series or two. Good evening. I too am very, very pleased to be here. I'm just over from Halifax, Nova Scotia with my wife Elaine. And it's nice to be back to Montreal, and all because of poetry. I blame it. I realized today, walking some of the streets on my way to McGill, that where I live, Truro, Nova Scotia, has really taken the city boy out of me. I lived 22 years in Vancouver, so to realize that today was quite surprising for me. But I understand why too, because in the small community that I live in, I might as well be on a piece of ice floating out in the middle of some body of water. There's no community there for literature or poets. So what I do is I go to the wild, and that's where I find my community. So this particular book is a gathering of poems that date back to 2010. And if I had to describe it precisely, I would probably say it's nature work. And so I do a lot of roaming. I know 10 Crow families, and I've known them for the past 15 years. I have a book coming out in 2026 called Birder in the Cathedral, and it's basically poems that have been part of that study, and that's coming out with Salmon Poetry Publishing out of Clare County in Ireland. So I'm very, very pleased about that. So what you'll find in this book is you'll find birdsong, you'll find things that will be very familiar with you because of your walks through the wild, through forests, with bodies of water, and also the seasons too. So of course we're at that point now, which is one of my favorite. And I'm starting to see those changes coming about in the form of little crocuses and hyacinths and daffodils and tulips, and of course the buds on the branches. So the way the world is at the moment, it's quite wonderful to see that we've been given this season spring once again, and we're able to live through it and enjoy it. And I hope that's how you feel about it as well. It's my favorite season. But of course, fall battles that at times too. So we'll be sharing poems that either haven't been read aloud ever, or they're poems that were first explored today during my time up on the hill at McGill. So this is always the thing about a new book. They're both thrilling and absolutely frightening. So because you never know if the poems are going to be generous again and allow you this time to use this to bring them about. I still write a lot with the pen and paper. I've gone back to the ink again, which I'm very happy about. And I love the physicality of the pen. When I don't like something, I can do this instead of all of this stuff. So I love to be back with that. And it is something to watch a pen go dry. So it's an indication that you may be on to something. So I hope you enjoy these poems. Parental Forest is just a wonderful little lot that I'm able to walk through. I used it as a shortcut. The 13 years that I had to work at an extremely painful and soul-sucking job. But that journey back and forth through this forest was so generous. A lot of poems came. I learned in that shortcut that you can write poems and allow them to stand as they come, instead of worrying about editing the hell out of them. So I did a lot of that with one book that I had come out in 2015 called, was with Black Moss Press. And so with this poem, it's a return to that forest as well, and the aspect of it being parental, the teacher, the guide, the giver, the sharer. This is a poem called Tim's Cup, and it first appeared in Queen's Quarterly, and they asked me to axe the last stanza, which I did for $100, because there's not a lot of magazines left in Canada that will pay you $100. So here's Tim's Cup. Sometimes a walk within the ripening wild, other years when it was May, opened both the active eyes of the man I still become to what I am willing to bet much on. Two different scenes connected by a dream. He, Tim Horton, far from the icy blue lines, seated at the unset kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee. As his gleaming spoon went round and round, seeing at least the first of the franchises. As for the other scene my money is on, one unseen in his steaming brew, as the famous morning poured into his eyes, fortunately unable to witness, unlike mine, his legendary name on each cup, thrown from a truck, carried on a car roof, dropped by a drunk, left to be litter, either in the grass by the forest or in the forest, ending the fern, or right there underfoot every 10 feet. Regardless, I doubt the great player would want to be turning over in the grave where his career rests, with the knowledge fans were that forgetful. It's nice to see how clean Montreal is. Sometimes these smaller communities forget about the importance of cleanliness. Here's a poem for Gord Downey. You know who Gord Downey is, right? Thank you. Sometimes you ask these questions. I love Gord because Gord was always a poet first. Always a poet first. This is the trust of a robin on Sunday, and in Truro we've just had the robins that do migrate come back, but strangely we have winter robins. Do you have winter robins here? Yeah, they're a miracle. They're really quite fascinating. So this is the trust of a robin on Sunday for Gord Downey. No other day than that day I fed the crows beneath the flags, one for Nova Scotia and one for our country, Canada. The lone bird, 3 parking spaces down the paved, well-traipsed hill, sat in the shadows of a tree of trees unknown because of the season's kind teachings, and did not move or fly away. All the time I was there, even when I stood still and stared at it, a robin, and it knew in that stare something may never know about, our similar, obvious lack of hurry. Perhaps the bird, simply brilliant enough to trust its decisions, to not allow me any superiority over the choice. Its choice to enjoy the day of rest, soon to endure the return to a more southern shade. I did a workshop today at McGill called Seeing the Small, and it's always been an area that I've been particularly drawn to and moved by, and have found many poems there, and this is one of them. This is called The Little Pine. It's a short one, so stay with me. During my walks, I have these little trees and birds and insects call out and want to be written about. So the little pine. To rest on a fallen tree in front of the little pine. All the time crows avoid the gull's theft, find all my hand served. I feel loneliness being helped. Dead needles are left. A courage to go on has returned. A circle of melting ice surrounds the chubby trunk. It's not often you get to use the word chubby in a poem. I jumped on that one. It's interesting. When you select poems days before the reading and you're going, oh, okay, well, I'm going to read that one. I know we mentioned Dylan Thomas there. One of the things that I've always loved, and I think I've learned from Dylan Thomas, is it's okay to read poems you like. Especially when you have a few that you do. The beauty of a thistle. As the days of the week charge off somewhere, the early morning jaunts to the job provide a mind pondering what it is to know a blessing, to be blessed, to want blessedness, almost thought after thought. As each step up the hill changes the thoughts to a curious surge throughout the body, perhaps a feeling coming on as the sun rises higher behind me, to allow the shade to remain just that, and the warming light to find and rest upon the purple of blooms. New growth as summer ages, as the choice now seems a wise one. The lawn needed cut. I chose to do the backyard first, being higher, and as the blades one by one were lowered, the choice to go around the young thistle, now understood, now being a sight of beauty, now being walked past, as a smile takes over my face and the dew dampens my old boots. It's kind of a flower you don't often have a relationship with, but they are beautiful, that purple bloom. Here's the title poem, Parental Forest. Parental Forest. I have been touched. I have been entered. And now you're in me. And now you're helping me. I can only tell you the moon isn't super, just full. I see it that way, but you won't believe me, will you? Somewhere along the walk, the cold is very cold. Everything I am in, dressed, hooded, gloved, just a shivering man. Trying can describe some of it, this living I do. I have here in me this living being more than me, being a big view, being a view with no size, just something to lead all that is in me, ready for all of a song, a poem, leading all of this into ourselves, into some place all of us eventually find and will stand for, that deepness we feel when trust is the teacher, the path, the hand, the eye, the voice, a little spot to claim without any fanfare. Just a voice I've trusted, a voice not a parent, a voice not an adult. When I take steps toward, no matter a past when a boy hated everything his father ordered, all the words I used to become unlike him. None of all that said means anything anyway, if I wish to hide from it, from him, a past so long ago. What does mean and always has finds one spot to survive each and every lovable season. In there, he is long gone. In there, I don't miss him or think about him at all. A father has one chance, but the small parental forest I know, I love, has many. As I navigate the ice and snow, walking a path I've made, I hear both my father and the voices of the trees I have known are for me to hear, to take guidance from about how I am the older man now, and this living and aging goes beyond the failure of a father, leaving me a happiness in only the songs of melting ice. Oh, I've been waiting to read this one. The parental forest has a master. Her name is Ruth. She can be very mean. She can say to you, "Do you pay the taxes on this property? Look at all the paths you're making." Of course, there were paths there that deer made years before I went through it. So this is entitled "A Branch Over the Path." A certain morning has her, tending not only spring beds, but the path going through, a property I use to find a way back to an old belief in shortcuts. A path I found based on directions another man shared. Another man thought was an easier way home. Her name is Ruth, unmistakably kind, path owner of sorts, ready to leave the bulbs and soil in order to try and have me stop using the easy way to the job. I listened to her reasons, her voice, nothing more than the cold morning. Her voice never saying my choice to cut through the property she wants to take away from humans is a wrong choice. A choice I think resembles the deer's. how the does were the first to invade the forest. Ruth said is a piece of her family's privacy. No signs hanging from the branch. And what would it matter? I have become a deer, and keep out wouldn't have caught my eye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chad. Your book, Parental Forest, is available right here for...
Right over there.
For how much?
$20.
$20. Thank you so much.
Great.
Wonderful,
Thank
great
you.
reading. Thank you for your words and your thoughts, and of course, your references to the Tragically Hip. Sorely missing this evening. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce one last featured reader, Jean Van Loon. Jean Van Loon is an Ottawa-born writer and graduate of Carleton, Queen's, Humber, and UBC. Her second poetry book, Nuclear Family, was published by McGill Queen's University Press in April 2022 and won the 2023 Ottawa Book Award. Her first collection, Building on River, was a finalist for that award. Her story, Stardust, published in the Queen's Quarterly, was included in Journey Prize Stories 19. Her stories, poems, and reviews have appeared in magazines from coast to coast. Everyone give a warm welcome to Jean.
Thank you very much, Jerome, and thank you for the welcome. I'm so happy to be standing on your virtual lawn to do my reading tonight. It's a good season to think about lawns. My book, Nuclear Family, is about a 1950s Ottawa family. And the father's work is in an Ottawa lab that refines metallurgical techniques for use in the atomic weapons program in the United States and subsequent nuclear developments. It's a standard 1950s family, 2 parents, 3 kids. The father, Arnie, mother, Liz, and the kids, Dick and Jane, of course, and young Teddy. I'm going to start off with a poem about where the uranium came from that Canada contributed to the Manhattan Project and kept shipping to the U.S. after that. Sawtoo Lake, called by whites Great Bear. Its 5 watery arms span forest and tundra, embrace the Arctic Circle. Sluggish fish stick to their own arm. Sawtoo Dene peer through wood smoke, drying giant trout. They track barren land caribou, hunt moose in the muskeg, springtime geese and ducks, trap fox in the woodlands, gather berries and herbs in the scented grass hills. By Delaney Village, lake drain breaks river ice. Men fish cisco all year round. A rock is solid as you're my eternal. On the lake's east shore, cool rock radiates, healing breath for tubercular lungs, glycerin mix to smooth on cancers of the skin, salts drunk down in dosages, absorbed through baths, radium, chemical symbol Ra, Sun King of Egypt. Also in the lake's steep eastern cliffs, or my father will purify for war. Uranium-235, 700 million years decaying. Each unstable nucleus sends out rays, births daughters that send out more. Alpha, blocked by paper. Beta, by a thin wood wall. Gamma, by thick lead sheet. Neutrons that pass through bodies of miners lured by work, and sawtooth bearers, pollened in radium dust, hauling uranium ore on their backs in burlap sacks. Torn sacks borne home to mend the tents in the village of widows. Our 1950s father, named Arnie, does a lot of traveling to go and visit openings of mines in South Africa and Australia and in the far north, of course, at a time when the fastest passenger plane was a DC-9. Ipana. Teddy hides behind Liz. Dick, 4 years old, giggles, "Daddy, Daddy." Home at last from a long, long trip, you spread before them astonishing things. Ipana toothpaste, the kind you all use, but tubed in unusual colors. Suitcase stickers from South African Airways. Tales of the world's most beautiful climate. Too bad about the government. Jane is 7, with the dimmest notion of what you mean. You present her with a plaid sundress she instantly loves. Maroon, soft golds and greens. Those colors won't suit her, says Liz. You know better. Jane wears it whenever the weather allows, until it becomes too small. A dress other girls envy, can't hope for, with fathers always here. Your letters flew home on airmail, paper edged in red and blue. Was that the trip you wrote it didn't matter if you didn't come home? Liz would have the insurance. Yesterday, Jane stopped at a store window. A man's shirt, plaid, in her dress's colors. Her arms warmed as on a childhood sundress day. A pivotal moment in the book and in the life of the family is Arnie's death at his own hand, presumably because of grief about how his work had been used. This poem is in the voice of Jane. Son and father. Dad? Dick, at 4, follows our father. Yellow power shovel held to his hip, striped t-shirt stretched to fit over his head. Follows him into the dark garage with the leaf rakes and rusty reel-style mower that sounds swish with every push. Dad? Follows Dad. Aged 11, Dick tracks Dad into the garage of the new house. Paved floor, straight walls, a gasoline mower for big lawns front and back. Dad shows how. Pull till it catches, turn back the choke. School day morning. Dick hears a bang downstairs, where Dad has gone to start the coffee. I hear it too, Call down. What did you drop? My snarky voice. No answer. Dad must be fuming. Dick laces his Sisman Scampers. He'll need new ones for summer camp. He calls down the stairs. Dad! Into the kitchen where breakfast should be. Dad! Down to the basement. Dad? Dad! What the new widow tells her 11-year-old son. He doesn't know. His green eyes translate from what she's saying to sun on his skin, river spill, prick of gills, smell of earthworms and perch. Coming weekend for him and Dad with a friend and his father. If Dick had remembered to mention the invitation. Whatever she says, he hears, if only. Widow's midnight. Night rains slow on the sill. Drop, drop, a knell. Bed sheets wintry and her abandoned feet. TV mystery she turned off. Fatherless boy, gang's deft stealth. His test, a knife drawn deep, opened throat. Here, two fatherless boys, under a roof she alone holds up. Its weight, wet laundry hauled upstairs. Weary feet in winter boots. Daughter, a butterfly fluttering low over ravenous swamp. Fresh flesh in a jungle of probing tongues, persistent paws. Rain drums echo the drunk from the curling club bar. Knuckles that pummeled the front door oak for her undefended self. She tosses in cotton tangle, tosses an arm out for anchor, for the hand no longer there. And now I'll skip to much later in the family's life and in the book to the inevitability in a book about the 50s and 60s of a poem about a car. It's called Phoenix. The sports car shines from the dealer's lot like a parked sun. 68 Firebird Sprint. Liz's 50-year-old heart rises from the rust flakes of her faded Buick Special. GM calls the paint goldenrod, but that's an August name. She sees April daffodil, May dandelion, the jubilant June hue of a circus train. She doesn't care about 0 to 60, or the engine, DeLorean's pride. Loves how the Firebird crouches for flight while standing in the drive. She flies to her government job, to grocery store, curling club, home. The mileage mounts, inches at a time. Years fly with her, taints of dried blood rust instantly stanched by the dealer's styptic. Intent young men at the high-test fill-up offer cash, lusting for overhead cams and the 4-barreled carburetor, the Firestone wide ovals ringed by a thin red line. From the snug white bucket seat of Naugahyde, she grips the shiny floor mount shift, her tweeds transfigured to leather, wool scarf to rippling silk, from widowed mother to bachelor girl. Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be able to come here.
Jean, thank you so much for reading. Your book is Nuclear Family, and it's available here, is it not? Yes. And what's the going price for that? $20. Wonderful, wonderful work. Poems that are incredibly relevant given today's political climate, of course, and this year's Oscar winner, Oppenheimer. Right? It's all about the nuclear bomb, and of course, you read beautifully. You read in this wonderful, almost like staccato style, which I think might be a nice reference to the fissure and fusion necessary for nuclear activity. It's beautifully done. Do we have, what is the next course of action, Jen? The matriarch will be speaking.
I'm the matriarch, yes. So now it's time to draw for, yes. I'm so sorry, my head is not good tonight. We'll do the draw for the Indigenous author book. So it's There, and it's by Tommy Orange. Tommy Orange's A Wondrous and Shattering novel follows 12 characters from Native communities, all traveling to the big Oakland powwow, all connected to one another in ways they may not yet realize. Among them is Jackie Redfeather, newly sober and trying to make it back to the family she left behind. Denny Oxendenin, pulling his life together after his uncle's death and working at the powwow to honor his memory. 14-year-old Orville, coming to perform traditional dances for the very first time. Together, this chorus of voices tells the plight of the urban Native American, grappling with a complex and painful history, with an inheritance of beauty and spirituality, with communion and sacrifice and heroism. Hailed as an instant classic, There is at once poignant and unflinching, utterly contemporary, and truly unforgettable. And so, where is my assistant? Shams, will you help me? Lift it over my head so I can't cheat. Oops, sorry. It says, Jean Van Loon. Hey, those women from Ottawa are pretty lucky tonight. Sorry about that. You came all the way from Halifax, but anyway. And now, dear Shams will sing us another song, I believe. Yes. Yes. And there's a little basket. There's actually under the papers. If you want to make a donation, it can go towards the food. It can go towards the land acknowledgement payment to our friends at the Native Women's Shelter or Resilience. Are you coming, my love? Yes. Yes.
So this beautiful instrument, it's called a lute Arab, and it's from Egypt, from Cairo, Egypt. I was born and raised in Old Cairo. I would love to sing a song of my father. It's a love song about a girl sleeping every night, dreaming about her Prince Charming. And he brings to her berries in his white hat. And her mother woke her up before he was proposing to her. So this is the story. It's called Toot Toot. And she was very upset because, oh, Mama, why you woke me up? He was going to propose to me. So It's called toot toot. In Egypt, the sound of the train is not choo choo, like here is toot toot. And I'm going to repeat toot toot many times. Please sing with me. قطر الفجر يعدى توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة توت توت قطر الفجر يعدى توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة توت توت في منامي في منامي في منامي شفت الواد ده نالي لي يما طقيت توت 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 قطر الفجر يعد قطر الفجر يعد توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة توت توت قطر الفجر يعد توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة في منامي في منامي في منامي شفت الواد ده نالي لي يما طقيت توت 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 قطر الفجر يعدى جاني الحلو وشفته نادى عليا عرفته جاني الحلو وشفته نادى عليا عرفته من غير كسوف يما من غير كسوف يما من غير كسوف حلفته تملي في المنام يفوتوا توت 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 قطر الفجر يعد قطر الفجر يعد توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة توت توت قطر الفجر يعد توت توت وانا لسه عالمخدة في منامي في منامي في منامي شفت الواد ده مالي لي يما طقيت توت 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 توت
It's very lovely, eh? Thank you, Shams. Yvette and Paul, I want to explain something. I discovered that the live stream didn't start in time. I think I got it started while you were speaking. I'm getting last names, so sorry. Annapolis, I can't. My brain is shorting out on me. But I want you to know, I think Lydia gave you my contact information. If you contact me, I'll send you the link because the evening is recorded and it'll be on the website in a couple days, and then your family can see it in England, okay? Okay, I'm not sure they'll hear what you said, but we try to repeat a little bit. But anyway, you honored us by being with us tonight. Thank you so much for coming, and we're thrilled that people came from far away and from nearby. I'm going to turn this over to Brian right now. Sheila, there, it came finally. Yeah, too many concussions. It just shorts out sometimes. Anyway. So Brian's going to come and do the open mic, and yeah, come on. Do you know who's reading in the open mic?
Who wants to read the open mic?
And at the end, I want to say a haiku.
Anyone else? Oh, okay. Kirsten?
Samara,
Samara?
and you have
I'd like to end with reading a poem by Blossom, actually. So, yes. So, what? You might just what?
has 30 minutes. As you can see, we're running late, but we want to go on until the dawn.
Yeah, we do things backwards here. The invited guests get 10, 15 minutes. Oh, but the open mic.
Okay, well, you can take a 0 off that, so it's, oh, yes, okay, so it's 3 minutes each, of course. Danielle. All right, let's welcome Danielle. Here she's on.
Well, I will not take so much of time. I'll just probably take 1 minute. Just as something very simple, short and simple. Okay. Oh.
We'll let them go by.
Oh. To be a flower in your morning path. I'll let you pick me and take me home with you. There, you'll put me in a book of your favorite poems. And with my dying breath, I'll breathe fragrance into your pages.
Kirsten.
Hello, sorry, I'm a little bit short. How are you doing? Voila. Thank you. Okay, so I just have a short poem called A Lake from Various Sources. I was going to go to another open mic where the theme was water, and I didn't quite make it, so I have it here. And it just, all the lines are taken from other poems. I think they're all poems or books. So, a tone is made more transparent by adding an enormous liquid clarity, a shaft of autumn water, and a round moon. There the river eddy whirls, an ever-rippling and excited surface, no sluggish tide congenial to the gloom. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, through caverns measureless to man. A lake is an article, followed by a noun.
Indeed it is. Okay, Samara.
I will also be reading something very short before I pass out. Wasn't the solar eclipse beautiful? I actually didn't write a poem about it, but this is about the moon. Several months ago, I read this article about how the moon is drifting away from the Earth. I was heartbroken, so I wrote this. It's called Goodbye Moon, The Origin of the End. And so the moon was formed, like Eve from Adam's rib, black opal. We may only imagine the coolness of touch. Soon, but far away still, as she drifts away over distant mountains of millennia, like the banishment of Lilith from Eden. The seasons will still in time, the tides will no longer turn, the days will grow long and lean, like a starved mongrel without mistress or guardian. And we will never again know or be cloaked in her darkness or her light. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I know you've heard my voice a lot tonight, so thanks. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my chapbook that was published a couple of years ago. I was very lucky to have it published. I was very lucky it also won an award. I actually have a couple of copies. I just got a new round of copies, so if you're interested, it's $10, and it's got jokes, it's got riddles, it's got poems. I'm going to very quickly read a poem about where poems come from. It's called Where. And the question is, where does a poem come from? You return from a trip across the beach. You shake your bag empty. Last fall out a few shards of glass. You had heard them chiming the whole walk, but thought it was the tin top of a coffee box rubbing against a book. But now that you look long enough, you wonder how many shards came out. And while the danger is obvious, you can already see the bleeding. You begin to poke through the pieces, not to ask, where did this come from, but rather, what is this supposed to be? Thanks.
Okay, Carolyn Vandermeer, you wanted to read
I did not intend to read, but listening to all of you, I kind of just want to be a part of it. So, this is actually in the new book that we launched last night, but I don't have that book with me, and I have it in a note here, so I think I'll just read from there. Let's see. It's called Reconciling Differences, City Hall Exhibit, Belfast. And this was a day that I spent in Belfast last spring, and, well, here we go. Okay. In the exhibit room about language, she considers the mix of English and Scots dialect, creating Belfastese, as they call it. The day before in Knocknashee, she felt her language fail as the hill of fairies took her in, spit her out, on the peak of the Daltrey Range, where at Benbalbin she tried to get her bearings and stalled, for that flat-topped rock formation left her without words. When she looked it up later, discovered it was a Nunatak, she felt its glacial roots tugging at her insides, reminding her how far she was from home, how cold the embrace might be when she returned. Thank you.
Maybe we'll let Blossom have the last word. Okay, we'll let Blossom have the last word. We haven't really talked about Blossom very much because it's really hard for me to do so. Before there was Jerome, there was Blossom Tom. She was one of our co-hosts. And yes, come hold on to me. If you look on the literary world of Montreal, she was here and there, you know, and we were very fortunate to have her as a co-host. Very articulate, very perceptive, but
very poised.
Poised, yes. But the reason I asked her to be my co-host, because the biggest criteria for me is, are they kind? Are they kind people? And Blossom was very, very kind. And but anyway, you see, I never met your brother in person. He was a person on the screen. It was COVID time. And then even post-COVID, I didn't make it to the reunion, you know, when you were back together in person, you know. So, but Blossom and I hung out. And she was very funny. We would talk on the phone and we would laugh. So Tuesday, I found out last Wednesday that she was going to palliative care. And I called. They said I should call because she's very tired, but I didn't get an answer. And so Tuesday, I had 2 meetings in the morning, and my heart said I must go. And I got to the hospital, and I met her brother, Lance, and her 2 nieces, whom we talked about, you know. And I met his wife, and they were leaving, and they said there would be a memorial, and they would give me a contact. They took my contact information. Lance called me today, and they're making the plans, so he hopes it will be next week, and I will put out an announcement, as I did with your brother. And I was allowed to sit with her body before they took her away. And Blossom was Buddhist, so I didn't want, I'm a United Church minister, so I would talk to Jesus for me, I need you, Jesus, and then I would talk to her thinking about her as a Buddhist, and what came to me was this little haiku kind of poem, and it was blossom in the wind beyond the stars. And so I think before we give her the last word tonight, the literary community in Montreal has had a very bad year, and lots of big losses. And so I think the takeaway is we need to cherish each other and be kind. And anyway, thank you so much for being here tonight. And it was lovely poetry, and we had this Armenian music. I mean, who gets to hear Armenian music, you know? So, and we remembered Morris Bailey. And so I think I'm going to say my goodbyes and my thank yous now, and they can say thank yous and goodbyes, and we'll hear from Blossom.
Thank you, Jen. We love you, Jan.
It's been such a lovely evening. Thank you so much to everyone for coming out, for listening, and for being part of a community. We're very lucky to have you.
Yes, we are all lucky to have each other. And I'm reading a poem from #Relief. It's actually, I think, the lengthiest one in her book, but it's one I felt that conveyed her winsome personality, her sense of humor, and I just love it. So it's called, I Went into a Pub to Sit with People in Love. Let's see. I'll have to take my glasses off to read. Okay. She may have dripped from the koi pond tableau above her. This girl with a purple and blue coif sides shorn bare, whose smile could make a new love blush, he does. A man points a finger, admonishes a woman. She plays contrite. She renounced pleasure long ago, drab to gray. She caresses a red scarf, her last treasure twirled around her neck. He stares at me, draining my beer, bearing witness to life before the #memorials take my breath. Do I look trainable sitting here alone? A lady of pearls requests a window be closed. An old love closes it a bit. With effort, she glows. He explains Acadia like a school book. She sings a song learned as a child. He does not compliment her voice. He does not praise her memory. She does not mind when he continues his discourse. He tried to close a window. That's what he does well. Try. The admonishing man stares at me. I wonder if he knows red is the color of passion. He frowns at my untouched salad. I prefer this burger and poutine. Do I need training? Her art in her bag to calm her nerves. With her art in her bag to calm her nerves, a solid woman meets the ex of her lover. She loves her well. All three women smile too much. Modern love tries to gather the old and the new. Two friends reinforce their mantles of singledom over beer and pub fare. They fill their weekends with each other, happy to worry away the time. This too is love. The admonishing man stares at me. I glare back. He glances at his wife, who is looking at her scarf. He follows my gaze. His wife caresses the redness. He summons a waitress to pay the bill. He gathers up his wife and leaves without looking at me. It appears I am not trainable. Thank you.
I think that just about closes up the evening. So we're going to probably start wrapping things up. But feel free to take a look at the books. If you're interested in purchasing a book, go ahead and see the author. That would be a good idea to do that. There is still food left, so if you're hungry, there is no excuse. Come up and get some. And of course, Jan pays for everything here, the rental, the space. She does all the work getting the authors together. So please donate to the cause. Please donate to her, and that would be much appreciated. Have a wonderful evening. It was a privilege having you here. Take care. Get home safe.